What's up with this new Mulan movie that everyone's talking about? You know, people were so excited for this movie. It looked interesting, it looked new, it looked original, it looked challenging. Oh wait, it has been done before. And no one had a problem with it. In fact, people loved it. And now Disney's prepared to ruin yet another childhood classic. Should I even give a spoiler warning? Because honestly, there's nothing in this movie to spoil. Whether or not you've seen it, this video is for you. Anyways, let's talk about the new Mulan. First of all, I paid $30 for this movie. And you know, for $30, I at least expected Disney, of all companies, Disney, to make something that looked at the very least good, passable. And believe it or not, this movie is the most expensive movie ever made by a female director. With a budget of $200 million, you'd expect it to look at least good, right? Blade Runner 2049 had a smaller budget of $185 million, and that movie was visually orgasmic. I am right. Well, whoop-de-fucking-do, this $200 million movie looks like dog shit. I don't understand what the critics are buzzing about. Does that look like real snow to you? Does that look like a real landscape to you? Does that... Okay, that looks fine. But I had to sit through 2 hours of astonishing inconsistency with the way this movie looks. The fire isn't fire, the sparrow isn't a sparrow. I know for a fact this movie could have looked way better than it looks right now. Disney is probably, take that back, definitely the most successful animation company this world has ever seen. They own the rights to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Star Wars universe, etc, etc. What I'm saying is, they're filthy rich. They probably have enough money to buy the entire world. Yes, the entire world. And they can't even hire solid editors, solid visual effects supervisors, solid cinematographers to at least ensure that their movies look competent. For fuck's sake, man. Alright, I've talked about how awful this movie looks. Let's talk about the writing.
Crush these murderers, Your Majesty.
A lot of the dialogue in this movie sucks. Corny, insincere, uninspired, cliched. But let's look at how the conflict, the written conflict, fares in this new adaptation compared to the original. The new Mulan does a lot of things differently from the original. In fact, you could even say it's quite the detour from the classic Disney princess that we've all grown to know and love. In the original Mulan, Mulan is someone who's dedicated to bringing honor to her family. She's loyal because she's willing to protect her loved ones at all costs. She's also vulnerable. She feels human. The inherent dramatic question in the original Mulan is, will Mulan be able to find her true self in order to find her place in such a socially challenging society? In the new Mulan, Mulan is a fucking superhero. And look, I have nothing against female superheroes, I think they're awesome. The problem here though, is how can anyone relate to this new character? The new internal conflict is, can Mulan be her great self in this socially challenging society? Do you see the problem here? The internal conflict devolved. It became more simple-minded, less multi-layered, and it feels forced. And my biggest question is, how did they fuck it up? Disney, you had the perfect template for a really well-written story that works so well in developing not just one character, but multiple characters. Which leads us to our next topic. You cannot convince me that the new villain in Mulan, the witch, is a well-developed character. So just to fill you guys in, there's a witch in this movie, and she's going through the exact same conflict as Mulan. Except instead of showing us the conflict, the witch feels compelled to constantly talk about her woes anytime she's on screen, as if the viewer was her fucking psychiatrist. How can a character be interesting if he or she constantly spoon-feeds his or her struggles with the audience every time he or she is on screen? Where's the storytelling in that? First of all, they took out Mushu. I think that's a plus for some, a minus for others. For me, Mushu gave the story its lighthearted energy, but he also had a story that complemented Mulan's arc pretty well. Now, what about the other characters? You see what I did there? You know, the crickets chirping because, you know. Okay. In all seriousness, there are no more characters worth discussing. Seriously, the dirt on Mulan's face was a better character than most or almost all of the characters in this movie. Remember how cool Shan Yu was in the original movie? Well, this fucking clown replaces him. They could have at least made him more interesting, or more intimidating, or even funnier. No, he was absolutely none of those. What about Mulan's comrades, you ask? They're so boring, so uninteresting, so unfunny. Whereas the original Mulan had some of the funniest supporting characters in any Disney movie I've ever seen. And what works so well is that the most important leads in the film share similar arcs. They're all trying to fulfill a role they believe that they deserve. In other words, they complement each other very well. It's hard for children to get into a movie with such unfunny and uninteresting characters, right? So the least that they could have done was do the iconic music some justice, right? Right? Alright, listen, I love the original music from the original Mulan, but did I really want to see Donnie Yen suddenly drop his sword and start yodeling, "I'll make a man out of you" with his army? Not really. So what did this new movie do? They removed all the songs. Yes, that could cause an uproar, but yeah, they removed all of the iconic Mulan songs that we've grown to love and that we can't stop singing. They turned this movie from a musical into a more serious drama. I put serious in quotes because it is mathematically impossible for anyone to take this movie seriously at all, but I digress. The new Mulan suffers from the same weakness that the original Mulan had for me, and that weakness was too much instrumental in the background. Listen, when you have music playing for almost every second of the entire runtime of the film, that music will be tuned out. So what's the point, right? Like, why is there music even there? Oh, I know why. It's because Western audiences can't handle watching a movie without music. You know, the music underscoring the scenes and makes the movies glossier, dreamier, more magical, cheerier. Why would you implement a musical score so arbitrarily, so liberally, so randomly, when the music of this movie has the potential to work within certain moments in certain scenes in extremely powerful and emotionally compelling ways? The overuse of background music becomes exhaustive, and frankly, it's a waste of someone's talent and time. If you're gonna take out the iconic songs that everyone can sing along to, you might as well take out the random, unnecessary background instrumentals too, right? Because now the musical production is even more of a waste of time. Is this movie worth $30? Fucking no. Seriously. I think it's become abundantly clear that within these past few years, Disney has not really stepped their game up in putting out original stories. And they should. They really should. Instead, they rely on what's worked in the past, and they remake it in a way that fits modern audiences' tastes. And usually, or quite frequently, or almost all the time, the result is they end up tarnishing the legacy of the original predecessor that many children have grown to love. I find it hilarious that they wasted 10 years to make this movie, only for audiences to realize that those 10 years, that $200 million spent on this movie, was a massive waste of time and money. This movie, at its best, was very mediocre, and at its worst, was laughably poor. The new Mulan made me feel nothing, and it was frankly a disappointment because it didn't do the original animated film any sort of justice, nor was it even good enough to be recognized as its own great standalone film. I'm gonna give Mulan 2 fucking stars, not just for wasting 2 hours of my time, but for wasting $30 out of my wallet.